Let me tell you a little secret. I'm a huge XRP fan. In fact, it's not just my favorite crypto, it's also my biggest holding by far. After years of investing and maybe being a little too obsessed, XRP has carved out a massive chunk of my portfolio. The market's always shifting, but the last time I checked, thanks to its incredible rally and my years of commitment since 2017, XRP made up about half of my entire crypto stack. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. When I first dipped my toes into crypto back in 2017, I came in with zero bias, just an open mind and a hunger to understand this fascinating and unpredictable space. Fast forward to now, and I'm beyond grateful for the journey XRP has taken me on. It's been a wild ride, but it's one I'm glad I hopped on. I'll admit I came into the crypto space skeptical, but I also came in with an open mind, knowing there was a chance it could all make sense. Honestly, that's the best way to approach anything new. Healthy skepticism is crucial, especially when it comes to big game-changing claims like those we see in crypto. And let's face it, when your own money is on the line, it pays to ask questions. Starting out, I was a blank slate. Now, I'll be honest, I'm biased, heavily biased in favor of XRP, and I'm fully aware of that. But here's the thing. I don't let my enthusiasm blind me to reality. If something ever goes wrong with XRP, I'm not going to bury my head in the sand. I'm a fan, yes, but I'm not married to it. For me, this is about making sound financial decisions, and XRP has been a huge win so far. But there's more to this journey than just financial gains. Being part of the XRP community has been incredible. I've met so many amazing people, made lifelong friends, and found a community built on shared passion and connection. That's something I genuinely love and value, regardless of where XRP's story takes us. So yes, I'm here for the financial benefits, but I'm staying for the friendships and the journey. Whatever happens, one thing is for sure, I'm grateful to be part of this ride. Let me be upfront. If something ever goes wrong with XRP, I want to know so I can take action if needed. That's why I actively search for critical information, even the negative stuff. If you've followed me for a while, you know I don't shy away from tackling the harshest claims or bogus narratives. I face them head on with a critical thinking lens. But here's the thing, the more I dig, the harder it is to find credible negativity about XRP from reputable sources. Let's be real. It's almost impossible to find credible negativity about this. Sure, some big names in crypto have their criticisms, but when it comes to reputable sources, it's tough. So let me share a couple of examples to explain why I feel this way. Now, look, I know about confirmation bias. We all want to believe what aligns with our views. It's human nature. That's why I actively seek out the negatives too, just in case. It's how I stay grounded, and honestly, I think it's the best way to approach life. But here's the truth. Every time I dig, what I keep finding are positive real-world developments. It does confirm my own bias, sure, but I can't ignore the fact that the negatives from credible sources are just not there. And hey, I'm just being honest. This is what the evidence keeps pointing to. Let me share some interesting insights with you. In this video, I'll highlight a couple of recent developments that caught my eye. First up, a Wall Street analyst from a major bank predicts XRP could skyrocket by 150%. Yes, 150%. That's some serious growth potential. And here's another intriguing headline. XRP and Solana set to take off amid surging institutional demand, according to analysts. Oh, and just for context, I like to mention the time I'm recording this because, as we all know, the crypto world moves fast. Let's dive in and explore what this means. It's Monday, June 16th, 2025, and the sun's just starting to rise here in the Midwest. XRP is sitting at $2.18, a slight bump from its $2.14 low about 9 hours ago. What's next? Honestly, no one knows for sure. The short-term price action of XRP, or any crypto for that matter, is always a wild card. Some analysts have been waving caution flags for days now, suggesting XRP could briefly dip below $2. And it's not just XRP, Bitcoin and Ethereum are also in the spotlight for potential short-term slides. But here's the thing, even if the market takes a temporary hit, it doesn't change the big picture. The XRP community has been buzzing with optimism, and for good reason. While no one can predict the future with 100% certainty, the chart analysts I follow, reputable voices in the space, have been impressively accurate. Sure, nobody gets it right every time, but on the whole, their track record speaks volumes. Here's the exciting part. These analysts, the ones who nailed the breakout we saw in 2024, are all singing the same tune. They're calling for XRP to break out in a big way. Think melt your face levels of growth. Not one of them is signaling doom or suggesting we're heading into a bear market where XRP will fail to reach new all-time highs. Nope, not even close. Yes, there's always the chance of a short-term dip, but honestly, that's not a deal breaker. It's just part of the ride. Take a look at this fascinating analysis from chart expert Crypto Wizard. On Sunday afternoon at 3:11 p.m. Central Time, he shared an XRP price chart with a bold observation. He notes a falling wedge pattern, a chart structure often associated with potential breakout moves. While he acknowledges that prices might dip slightly lower within this range, it doesn't change the bigger picture. Here's the exciting part. Crypto Wizard is firmly in the camp that XRP is gearing up for something major. Price discovery. Yes, the moment many have been waiting for may finally be on the horizon. Meet Cantonese Cat, a rising star in the world of chart analysis. With 38,700 followers and climbing, his sharp insights are clearly striking a chord. Gotta give credit where it's due. Building that kind of following is no small feat. Recently, he dropped an almost hour-long video diving into a range of topics, including XRP. What caught my attention? He echoed a sentiment I've been hearing repeatedly from top analysts. Something that should bring you a little peace of mind in these uncertain times. Now, I get it. There's always that nagging voice asking, what if it's just confirmation bias? Trust me, I've been digging deep, actively searching for the criticism, the counter arguments, the red flags. But the more I look, the more the positive signals keep shining through. Honestly, I get a kick out of tackling the negative stuff. Give me more and I'll happily break it down on my channel. It's like ripping bad arguments to shreds just fuels me. At least that way, even if I'm tearing it apart, you know exactly what's being said and who's saying it. But here's the thing. It's getting harder to find real credible criticism out there. Lately, it's been crickets from reputable sources. Still, I'm spotting a trend. Analysts, especially the chart watching kind, keep saying the same thing. XRP is consolidating. For nearly half a year now, XRP has been on a fascinating journey. After skyrocketing from $0.49 to an impressive $3.40, it's been through the kind of ups and downs that keep investors on their toes. A 50% drop from its all-time high brought it down to around $1.60. But here's where it gets interesting. Over the last 5 months, XRP has been holding steady, consistently hovering above the $2. This is exactly the kind of movement you'd expect after such a massive breakout. It's not going to camp out at its peak of $3.40 forever. Instead, it's following a predictable pattern, hitting a high, pulling back, consolidating sideways, and gearing up for its next move. If history tells us anything, XRP is primed for another leg up. Over the last 2 cycles, we've seen a clear pattern, a big pop, a few months of consolidation, and then boom, another explosive move. It's like clockwork, and guess what? It looks like we're gearing up for round 3. Now let's talk XRP. Cantonese Cat has some thoughts, and while he's calling this prediction conservative, it's bound to get your attention. He's eyeing a burst that could take XRP to $6, $8. Its next breakout. Is that the peak? Maybe not. But as the second and likely final leg up gains momentum, that $6, $8 range is looking very possible. For those of you who've been in the game for years, patiently holding on to your positions, this is the moment you've been waiting for. You bought in low, and now you're watching these numbers with excitement and maybe even a little bit of drool. If you're new to the crypto game and feeling down because your investment isn't soaring yet, trust me, I get it. When I first got into XRP, I spent most of the early years either in the red or barely breaking even. And guess what? That's pretty normal. Rarely do we buy into a crypto right before it skyrockets. Timing the market perfectly, almost impossible. What I did instead was simple. I stuck to dollar cost averaging. Little by little, I kept adding to my position. It wasn't exciting at first, but it paid off. So if you're in that same boat right now, hear me out. Looking at where we are in the market structure today, and considering that XRP has already had its first big move, there's still potential for huge gains. Analysts believe history could repeat or at least rhyme. And if they're onto something, the upside from here could be massive. Analysts are buzzing, and the excitement around XRP keeps building. Many believe we're heading well past $8. Some are even throwing out numbers like $10, $15, even $25 or $30. Bold, maybe, but unrealistic? Not at all. It all depends on how much money flows into the market. And guess what? Momentum is on our side. Take it from chart analyst Stefan, one of the pros, who nailed the call on XRP's recent breakout. His message: if you're giving up on XRP now, you're about to miss out on some serious gains. The charts don't lie. XRP is consolidating just like it's supposed to. Check out those trend lines. This is the calm before the storm, the perfect setup for what's coming next. You don't need to be a chart wizard to see the signs. Sometimes the best strategy is simple, just hodl. Patience pays off, and history shows that hodling works. Look at the shrinking volatility range. It's all part of the big picture. Here's the thing. Before you hit the apex of a trend, something big almost always happens. I'm not a chart guy, but trust me on this, you'll see a breakout either up or down nearly 100% of the time. So what's next? Well, we're smack in the middle of a bull market, and if history is any guide, the likely outcome is simple. Number go up, eventually we hit the blow off top. Now let's talk XRP for a second. If you think XRP has potential, you're not alone. Remember, earlier in this video, I brought up a Wall Street analyst from a major bank, and not just any bank, we're talking about Standard Chartered. You might think, the 44th largest bank in the world? That's not exactly top 10, but hold on, with around 25,000 banks globally, being number 44 is no small feat. That's an elite company, folks. This isn't some no-name fly-by-night operation. This is a serious player in the financial world. Let's put this into perspective. If you factor in credit unions, we're talking about 44,000, maybe even 45,000 institutions, and here we are discussing one of them, number 44. But here's the kicker. Someone at that bank, a professional in the system, actually believes in the kind of price action the XRP community has been predicting for nearly a decade. Let that sink in. Sure, some of you might say, well, that's not a big enough deal, but think about it. Someone from one of the biggest banks on the planet shares a belief that aligns with ours. They could have dismissed it, ignored it, or called it unrealistic, but no, they're seeing what we see. And isn't that amazing? It's validation. It's proof that we're not crazy for believing in this. It's a reminder that what we've envisioned isn't just wishful thinking, it's rooted in something real. I'm always on the hunt for perspectives that challenge my views on XRP, but let's be real, it's getting harder to find them these days. Why? Because XRP keeps gaining traction. Case in point, I came across an intriguing article on Yahoo Finance, originally from the Motley Fool, titled, "Should You Buy XRP While It's Under $2.50? A Wall Street analyst says it could soar 150%. Let's break that down. XRP is up 13% year to date, currently sitting at $2.30 as of a few days ago, with a market cap of 135 billion as of June 10th. Impressive, right? But here's where it gets really interesting. Jeff Kendrick from Standard Chartered believes XRP could be worth significantly more in just a few years. He even predicts it could overtake Ethereum by 2028. Pause for dramatic effect. Yep, you read that right. Now, I'll admit, I appreciate the bold optimism. If you're an XRP holder, this is probably music to your ears. While I'm not rushing to pop the champagne just yet, I'm more than open to seeing how this plays out, particularly get it. You're saying it could take 3 years to get there, but honestly, I'm not so sure. In fact, I think there's a strong shot we'll see it happen this year. Here's why. We're in a bull market. I believe we're entering that electrifying phase where Bitcoin takes off on its final parabolic run, dragging altcoins along for the ride. That means XRP could be headed for new price discovery alongside Ethereum. And now that XRP is no longer weighed down by legal uncertainty, the playing field feels much more even. Here's the kicker. I think there's a real chance XRP could challenge Ethereum for market cap dominance. Don't think it's possible. History begs to differ. Back in 2017 and early 2018, XRP knocked Ethereum out of the number 2 spot during a massive rally. I truly believe this could be the cycle where big things happen. Think about it. If you're betting on Ethereum hitting $10,000 0 cents, which is only about double its previous all-time high, why is it so hard to imagine XRP giving it a run for its money? If XRP competes with Ethereum in market cap, you're looking at double-digit XRP prices. Sounds wild? Not really. This isn't some far-fetched fantasy. It's a reasonable speculation based on the market's potential. Of course, there are no guarantees in this game, but if you're someone who believes it's possible, then the idea of XRP climbing that high isn't so crazy after all. So to put it into perspective, they mentioned that Ethereum's current market value is 335 billion. For XRP to hit that level, it would need to skyrocket by nearly 150%, bringing its price to $5.70. Now, let me be honest. If XRP peaks there, I'd feel a twinge of disappointment. By that point, I hope I've sold a good chunk of my holdings, maybe not half, but definitely a meaningful portion. Why? Because if $5.70 is as high as it goes, I'd still be holding on to a pile of XRP, waiting for those dream prices that may never materialize. When I first read this projection, a lot of thoughts crossed my mind. Some excitement, some hesitation. I've had time to reflect, and while $5.70 would be a nice leap, I'm still betting on higher high. Over the years, I've observed that many bank analysts tend to adopt a far more conservative outlook than what reality often demonstrates. This pattern is not exclusive to XRP, but applies to various assets. That said, it's notable that an analyst from one of the world's largest banks publicly projected XRP's value at $5.70. Considering that for the past several years, many critics claimed XRP was heading to zero due to the SEC case and questioned its utility, claims I believe to be unfounded. This projection is remarkable. While I personally view $5.70 as a very conservative estimate, even by my own cautious standards, it is encouraging to see a major banking institution openly discussing XRP in such terms. Whether this prediction proves accurate or not, the fact that a professional from a leading bank feels confident enough to make this statement publicly is in itself a positive development. Reflecting on the progress we've made, it's clear that significant strides have been achieved. While some may suggest it could take a few years to fully realize certain goals, that perspective is acceptable. However, there still seems to be an insufficient recognition of market cycles, which leaves me somewhat uncertain. That said, it is encouraging to see individuals in influential positions acknowledge these developments, offering a sense of cautious optimism. CoinDesk recently published an article that was shared by the cryptocurrency exchange Uphold, a platform that has been steadfastly supportive of XRP, particularly during the challenges of the SEC lawsuit. The article highlights key insights into XRP and Solana, noting that while the market experienced volatility, institutional investors continued to accumulate. The data reveals over 470 million in corporate XRP purchases, Solana treasury plans nearing 5 billion, increasing discussions around ETFs, enhanced legal clarity, and growing real-world utility. These developments suggest that XRP is rapidly gaining momentum. Speculation about XRP reaching $5 gaining traction, and the underlying market trends provide a compelling narrative for such optimism. This CoinDesk article highlights an important development in the cryptocurrency space. According to the article, XRP and Solana are positioned for significant growth amid rising institutional demand. One analyst predicts that, with pending legal clarity and ETF speculation, XRP could reach as high as $5 by mid-2025. It is notable that even traditionally more conservative analysts within the crypto sector are beginning to acknowledge this potential. While their cautious outlook is understandable, it is encouraging to see growing acceptance of these projections. Volatility in cryptocurrency markets is increasing, with significant attention from institutional investors clustering around major tokens supported by robust on-chain ecosystems. On Thursday, crypto markets experienced turbulence as traders reacted to renewed geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, following reports of Israeli airstrikes on Iran, which triggered a broader risk-off sentiment. It is important to clarify that this commentary is focused solely on the implications for financial markets, not the broader geopolitical circumstances. Historically, such events may cause short-term disruptions in the markets, but their long-term impact tends to be minimal. For example, past events such as the onset of COVID-19 or global trade disputes have initially caused sharp declines, but ultimately proved to have limited enduring effects on market trajectories. FTX serves as a notable example of a real-world event with significant impact. Similarly, the Great Financial Crisis demonstrated the severe effects of market downturns, with the stock market experiencing substantial losses. However, even major events like these, when viewed in hindsight, often appear as mere blips on a long-term trajectory. Within a few years, the market tends to recover and move in a positive direction. It is important to distinguish between transient events such as the effects of COVID-19 or trade tariffs, and more substantial occurrences like the 200082-20009 financial crisis. Yet even severe real-world events tend to have relatively short-lived impacts when evaluated over a longer time frame. XRP, currently trading at approximately $2.10, has been gaining attention for its increasing adoption in corporate treasuries. Notably, over 470 million in XRP purchasing activity has been allocated by companies such as Webis International, 300 million, Vivo Power, 121 million, and Logistics, 50 million, according to Ryan Lee, chief analyst at BitGet Research. While further details on these firm-specific use cases for XRP have been previously discussed, it is evident that XRP is being utilized as a treasury asset, Since the beginning of May, the majority of firms making announcements have been utilizing XRP, which adds to its growing adoption. While I have covered this in detail elsewhere, consider the following. These firms account for approximately 470 million worth of XRP. This figure does not include the largest instance involving 500 million worth of XRP, which I have also previously detailed. Notably, this 500 million represents XRP being used as a treasury reserve asset by a publicly traded company listed on NASDAQ. Collectively, these examples, spanning just 4 companies, bring the total close to 1 billion, highlighting significant institutional interest in XRP. Consider this, nearly $1 billion is being invested into XRP. While short-term pullbacks are possible, it's important to note that 500 million of this investment is expected to be deployed throughout the second half of 2025. Some portions of the funding may still be pending, though the exact details are unclear at the moment. Nevertheless, the influx of nearly $1 billion into XRP, driven by a small number of major companies, is significant. Such a substantial investment is likely to generate a multiplier effect, amplifying its impact on the XRP market. When prices are bid upward, the impact of $1 billion flowing into the market can be significant. Of course, this effect can vary depending on the timing. If the market has already peaked and is in decline, the influence may be diminished and the trend could still move downward. However, looking at the net impact over a longer term perspective, if this process continues, it could make XRP increasingly scarce over the span of years or decade. This scenario considers only a small number of companies. Now imagine a future where a significantly larger number of publicly traded and privately held companies start adopting XRP as a treasury reserve asset. Such widespread adoption would further amplify its scarcity. The key takeaway is that the quantity of companies or funds doesn't necessarily have to be enormous, though that certainly helps, because even a few key players investing substantial amounts can quickly create a profound impact. Consider how significant the impact becomes. 4 companies, approximately $1 billion invested. What can we expect in the coming years and decades as more organizations recognize the practicality of this approach? The trajectory points to continued growth. However, it is important to acknowledge that bear markets will persist and XRP will likely face substantial setbacks due to market exuberance. Such fluctuations are inevitable, and corrections of 70%, 80%, or even 90% for XRP remain possible. I strongly believe that the cryptocurrency market as a whole is poised for significant growth. This aligns with the broader market trends, which suggests an expansion rather than a contraction. The overall crypto pie is expected to grow larger over time. Consider the following statement from Ryan Lee, chief analyst at BitGet Research. The surge in corporate XRP treasury signals a growing institutional embrace of XRP for its low-cost, high-speed payment capabilities, he noted in a statement to CoinDesk. He further explained that pending legal clarity and speculation surrounding ETFs could drive XRP's value to as high as $5 by mid-2025, while acknowledging that risks remain. As we approach the midpoint of the year in June, an analyst from a reputable source has suggested the potential for significant price movement for XRP this summer. Historically, cryptocurrency markets have experienced notable activity during the summer months, particularly in the 4th year of a market cycle. This pattern was evident in both 2021 and 2017, characterized by heightened market dynamics, whereas other years saw relatively stagnant sideways price action. This trend aligns with the well-known adage, sell in May and go away. In the 4th year of a bull cycle, trends often repeat themselves. For instance, 2017 and 2021 were notable years of strong growth. Now, as we approach 2025, another 4 years later, it remains to be seen if history will follow a similar pattern. While we can't predict the future with certainty, historical trends often provide valuable insights. That said, I believe the trajectory will likely continue upward, though it's important to maintain a balanced perspective and avoid confirmation bias. Even with my own biases as an XRP holder, I aim to remain objective, seeking out both positive and negative information. If there were legitimate reasons to reconsider my stance on XRP, despite how difficult that might be, I would want to know about them. However, credible negative arguments against XRP are rare. Most criticisms I encounter are either poorly substantiated or come from sources like Cointelegraph, which appears to have consistent biases, or individuals with strong anti-XRP sentiments. Among reputable outlets and experts in the crypto space, I rarely find compelling evidence against XRP. My approach remains transparent. I actively seek out and share both the positive and negative aspects of XRP, ensuring that you receive a balanced view of the situation. There is always a risk of confirmation bias, and I want to be transparent about that. However, I have not been able to find credible negative information from reputable sources. Doesn't that say something? In the past, much of the criticism was tied to the SEC lawsuit, which was understandable to some extent, as it raised legitimate concerns. Now, even that type of information seems to have disappeared. If you can find credible negative evidence, I encourage you to share it with me. I'll gladly credit you and highlight it on my platform. However, at this point, such information appears extremely rare, and from my perspective, the outlook seems very positive. This may be one of the best times to be an XRP holder. While there was significant opportunity when XRP was valued at half a penny, the balance between risk and reward has shifted considerably. Today, there is far less risk compared to 2013, yet the potential for substantial gains remains. When considering this balance, it is reasonable to conclude that the current environment presents a unique and favorable opportunity for XRP holders. With over 12 years of existence, XRP has demonstrated resilience and potential, an exciting prospect for those invested in the asset. However, please note that this is not financial advice, and any investment decisions should be made based on thorough research and consultation with a professional financial advisor.